Hello, everyone, and welcome to Southern Lee Cavalier Football and the Mike McClure Coaches Show. I'm Austin Thomas, and I'll be your host tonight as we talk Cavalier football and visit with Southern Lee head coach Mike McClure. As always, we want to thank our sponsors for helping you bring our show each and every single Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. here on 105.5 FM WFJA. Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. Tonight's show will be rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. this Friday night prior to our 7:30 game on 95.1 FM, 1050 AM WWGP. Video of our coaches show will be posted on the WFJA Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. I look forward to talking with Cavalier head coach Mike McClure tonight and bringing you exciting coverage of Southern Lee football. We're going to take a short break and hear from our great sponsors. We'll be right back with Coach McClure right after this.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix-It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we welcome you back to WFJA Sports 105.5 FM. Austin Thomas in studio tonight for the Mike McClure Coaches Show. Coach Mike McClure, head coach of the Southern Lee Cavaliers, joining us once again. Coach, thank you again for coming in tonight.
No problem.
So coming off of a victory the week prior, I think the Cavaliers had big expectations for their game against Richmond, and really the first half of that game was within the Cavaliers' reach, but unfortunately Richmond was able to pull away in the second half. Final score 38-10 on Friday night. But again, the majority of the first half, Southern Lee was right there. What was the game plan going into Friday night, both offensively and defensively, against Richmond?
Well, like you said, we were right there. Fumble to open the snap, kind of set us back a little bit, and but overall the game plan was just offensively slow things down, kind of play at our pace. So that because we knew that it would come down to the numbers at the end of the game.
Right.
When you play in a bigger school like Richmond where they dress 60, 70 kids, you got to be strategic in your approach. You can't come out here and just rep and run plays. So, our whole thing was just to come, slow the game down offensively, and then defensively it was to make them pass the ball. We knew that they could run the ball. We knew that the quarterback was athletic and he can take off and start scrambling as well. And we knew that the running back was their go-to guy. So we wanted to put them in a situation to where they had to pass the ball.
So speaking of passing the ball, you and I talked last week about sophomore quarterback Robbie Sims and his evolution so far throughout this season. And one thing that you mentioned is that you wanted to see him get the passing game going.
Mm-hmm.
I think really Friday night was his best performance so far as a quarterback, truly leading the offense. First 5 passes on Friday night were to 5 different receivers. What can you say about, going into that game Friday night with the focus on passing and how you were able to, work that to your benefit?
Well, we knew that they were going to come out and play us in man coverage. Most teams do, just because we haven't been passing the ball. So most teams, they feel like they can, stack the box on us. Passing is something that we've been working on at practice, and just in all different types of situations, scenarios. So, we felt comfortable that we were going to be able. We knew that we were going to be able to take some shots and have some guys open from time to time. It was just a matter of him, being patient, stepping up in the pocket, not getting antsy and scrambling outside or having to throw away, but just, being able to stay in the pocket and find those receivers that was open.
And I think that really showed Friday night as well, just his patience that he's developing, once he has the ball in his hands. And he's been able to show off his arm, too. So, moving forward throughout the rest of the season, we've got a few games left now. Where do you want to see Robbie's game go?
Just continue to evolve in the passing game. I think the more he evolves in the passing game, the better our offense is going to be. So if we're actually being successful now in running the ball, once we start passing the ball, then we're going to be even that much more successful in running. It's kind of like what we talked about a few weeks ago. We got all these guys all over the field that can make plays. Teams really won't know how to prepare for us because we've opened up another part of our game, which is passing the ball.
And it was the first game Friday night that you had more passing yards than you actually had rushing yards. So I think being able to put that all together as the season goes on, is going to show how versatile your offense is going to be able to be. Now, of course, you already mentioned the couple of key turnovers that happened in the first half. One on the opening play on your very first drive, and then one as we got a little closer toward halftime when Southern Lee was going down the field looking to tie the game. The past couple of weeks, Southern Lee had played relatively mistake-free football in terms of turnovers. Talk to me about how, I'm sure the guys saw how vital those turnovers were. Talk about how you've been able to take that into this week's practice and mold it into a positive moving forward.
Well, just continue to tell them to pay attention to the details. I think we're actually cleaning up all of our penalties as well. Not as many penalties as from the beginning of the season, but that's kind of normal when you starting out and then you kind of get in the rhythm and the groove of things. But that just goes back to us, getting on the guys about paying attention to the small things, the details, and we try to have game-like situations where we, send guys the offense versus the defense, and if we see holding, we move them back, or if see pass interference, then we move them forward, and so putting them in those game-like situations so that they understand how important it is that they can't do those things, especially if we're in a goal line situation, or especially if the other team is a threat to score. How we can't put them in a position to go ahead and do what they want to do. We got to be able to control what we want to do.
Well, and you mentioned the penalties. Richmond, I believe, had almost double the amount of penalties that you guys did on Friday night, and from that aspect of playing cleanly, that's really come a long way this season. But then, and moving over now to your defense, your defense has created a turnover against their opponent in every single game this season. Mm-hmm. You mentioned last week that we had already surpassed last year's turnover amount. Talk to me about, Richmond got out, 28 points ahead, but the fourth quarter, your guys held them scoreless. Talk about what you see there from a resilience standpoint on this defense that late in the game.
Well, it's kind of the same thing we've been speaking on for the past few years. I've been here, how that never giving up mentality, not quitting, playing to the final whistle, and at the end of the day, we just want teams to respect us for what we bring to the table and what we do. We don't want to give anybody anything, and I think everybody we played this year has had to earn their wins, and nothing was just given to them. But yeah, I did. I kind of talked with my guys defensively, and kind of showed them the difference between the success that we've had or the games that we've been close. We've been able to create more than one turnover. Friday we only created one. So I believe that's a difference, and I think that they see that. Because if we were able to go out there and maybe get two or three more turnovers, it's a different type of ball game then as well, because momentum is changing again. So just kind of constantly telling them about trying to get more than one turnover. We want to have multiple turnovers. From a defensive standpoint, not from offense.
Right. So, obviously, when you play a team like Richmond, one thing you certainly expect from them, and was on display Friday night, is their size. Mm-hmm. That's one thing they're just known for. But your guys really didn't back down for physicality on Friday night. Can you speak to that, not only from the point of their character and their drive, but just from their athleticism to be able to stay physical all four quarters with Richmond?
Yeah, we told our guys at halftime we were actually the more physical team Friday night, and I backed that up 100%. We were the more physical team, like just going back, just watching their guys get drove to the sideline, and watching their guys, watching our guys do, play. They play with a different side of them. We didn't come with the win. But we were probably the most physical, I would say, offensively that we have been all year up against them. And playing like that is going to take us a long way, especially when we have guys that, that we match up size-wise with. That's going to take us a long way. But it just says, it's a testament to our guys. And I try to tell them, guys, look, you can play with anybody. And that showed, and I think that constantly builds their confidence of showing them that they can play with larger schools and with larger teams.
Absolutely, and that's something that from week one onward, I think we've seen just a tremendous evolution on this team, and I think we're still going to have plenty to celebrate this year because you have some great guys on that team. Are there any kind of unsung heroes that we haven't hit on this year that you feel like deserve some recognition?
I was like I say, the guys that mainly are switching positions and from their normal routine of what they normally may be playing. They may play linebacker one week, they may play offensive guard the next week or defensive end, and just got our guys up front being able to adapt and adjust. Those guys don't get enough credit, so all those guys in the trenches. I would say those are the guys that are going to continue to push us forward as we go through this season.
Well, we're certainly proud of each and every one of them, and we enjoy highlighting them every week. Quick look across the Week 5 scoreboard from last Friday night. Lee County with a big win over Union Pines, 59-0 is your final there. Hoke County with what may be considered a surprising win, but they've got a good team down there. 52-35 at Scotland County, and then of course Pinecrest had a bye last Friday night, but they will return to action this Friday as they play host to Richmond. Other Week 6 contests as Lee County on the road traveling to Hoke with Union Pines having a bye week. And of course, Southern Lee will be traveling to Scotland County this Friday night, and we'll have a preview of that and much more in our next segment. This is the Coach Mike McClure Show here on WFJA. We'll be right back.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we do welcome you back to the Coach Mike McClure Show here on WFJA. Austin Thomas sitting down beside Southern Lee head coach Mike McClure. And now in our second segment, as we do each and every single week, we're going to hand out some hardware to some deserving guys for last week's performance against Richmond. As always, we'll start out with the Norman Financial Group Bubba Subs and Pizza Offensive Player of the Game. This, of course, was selected by Mike Fowler and myself in our postgame show. And really, Coach, after Friday night, there was only one guy really we thought we could go with, and that was sophomore quarterback Robbie Sims. 10 for 18 on the night, over 140 yards passing, including a 68-yard touchdown pass, a career-long pass so far for the Cavaliers. Talk about Robbie and his evolution from week 1 now to week 5 and what you're seeing in him.
Completely, he's transforming each week. He's getting more comfortable at that position each week. He's taking the coaching, taking things that we're doing in practice, and he's actually applying them. A lot of kids, they don't really necessarily apply the practice part over into the game, but he's actually doing that. And he's, like you said, a passing game is something that we wanted to be efficient in this week and continuing on, and he stepped up and he did that. Went 10 for 18, 140 yards, our only touchdown on Friday to BJ. So he's evolving and he's doing everything that we need him to do right now.
And we were just talking about during the commercial break about how his confidence on the field seems to just be skyrocketing. And he's only a sophomore too. What kind of future for the Cavaliers could you see a kid like Robbie having, just with the raw talent that you're seeing already?
Just definitely his, leadership qualities. He comes to the sideline, he's not upset, he's not mad, he's not, he's not talking down on guys. He's just still calm and cool, and he's just still uplifting guys, and he's trying to get the offense going after, we may go 3 and out and stuff like that, and that's what you need. You need that type of leadership, especially from that position.
So, congratulations to Robbie for being our offensive player of the game. Now, over to the defensive side, we had a lot of guys contributing on Friday night, as we talked about, just from a pure physicality standpoint. The Cavaliers were, matching, if not exceeding, Richmond's physicality. But the biggest defensive play probably of the night came later in the game. So, our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza's defensive player of the game went to a freshman, Mr. Avery Harrington. The young defensive back forced the lone Richmond turnover Friday night late in the game with an interception. Talk to us about Avery, because it's the first time we've said his name this season.
Yeah, so Avery, he's actually been the JV quarterback, starting quarterback, and plays free safety on JV. Probably going to move into wide receiver, as the rest of the season, goes on through on a JV level. But just one of those guys that we just brought up, part of the 8-quarter deal, and because we knew we would be thin this week with a lot of missing 4 starters this week, so we knew that we had to bring a young guy up, and he did everything that we asked him to do. He was just in the right place at the right time and was able to capitalize on it and get his first varsity interception. So proud of him, and now he's becoming more comfortable and confident, and that's only going to help him as he gets out there and he plays JV, and then we'll continue to use him on Friday nights as well. But like I said, a freshman that's stepping up and making plays and getting our only turnover on the night, that's big for him as well.
Well, and not only getting the lone turnover and being in the right place at the right time, but laid out for it too. He wasn't afraid to hit the deck on that one to come up with the ball, and I think it reminds me a little bit of a guy like a Dylan Green who was given an opportunity and has taken advantage of it. So you mentioned possibly seeing Avery slotted in more at the varsity level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got a handful of guys that we bring up on Friday nights, and depending on how the game going, or depending on where we need guys at, those guys get in. And I've been saying this since I came. I'm not afraid to play a young guy. I'll play a young guy because it's only going to help them in the end. As they get older, so to get them with that experience early. So young guys, if they can do it, I'm going to play them.
So congratulations to Robbie and Avery for being the players of the game for offense and defense as selected by Mike and I. And now comes the time of the week where we talk about the Coach McClure player of the game, brought to you by Wilkinson Chevrolet. Coach, who is your player of the game for Friday night?
Well, we went with senior Jadarian Hamilton. Decided to go with him. Jadarian had 10 tackles on defense this pass, and it seems like I cut on the film and he was just everywhere. He was everywhere defensively with 10 tackles, and then he obviously comes in on offense and runs the ball. He ran the ball well. I believe he had close to probably about 15 to 20 yards there on the carries that he did have a reception as well, and then he played every special team snap. He was on kickoff, he was on punt, he was on kickoff return. He literally did not leave the game, and he toughed it out. He sucked it up, and he just grinded it out, what we needed from him, and as a senior. So we felt he was deserving of the overall player of the game.
And he's a guy that has played every season for you since you've been at Southern Lee. Talk about his transformation from your first year at the helm to now, and just the player that he's evolved into.
Well, his physical appearance is what really what really kind of he's evolved in. He was real small. He wasn't too small, but he wasn't the size that he is.
He had
now.
a good frame there. Yeah.
He had a good frame. He had a good starting point.
Right.
And he's been able to really fill out this summer, and with that, is in the weight room has allowed him to be more confident on the field. He's able to. I can move him back to linebacker if I need to, or I can walk him down the defensive end, or I can put him inside at defensive tackle, just because the weight that he's put on has been so beneficial for him. And then plus two, he still moves to be well enough to play running back.
Right.
So he had 2 touchdowns last week. The week before last. So he's moved well. And so he's put on the weight the right way, and he's bought into what we're trying to do, and he has no problem, helping the team. So, he's just showing some senior leadership.
We're happy to see it. Plenty of leadership across this team. So congratulations to Jordarian on being named the Wilkinson Chevrolet Coach McClure Player of the Game. Coach, we got about a minute left here tonight on our show. We travel to Scotland County on Friday night. The Fighting Scots, 2-3 overall in 2022, lost their opening conference game last week to Hope County. What can you tell us about what we can expect Friday against Scotland?
Well, Scotland's similar, to Richmond County. They're going to have a lot of numbers, and big football tradition behind them. The offensive line is going to be physical, and they got a running back who can, he can take over a game at any second, any minute. So we got to really key in and focus on him. Defensively, they'll probably crowd the box like everyone else, and try to play man coverage on us and force us to throw the ball, because that's something that we don't do often. But we'll be prepared for it. So once again, as long as we're creating turnovers and forcing turnovers, is another chance for us to still be in the game and pull an upset.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to Friday night, hitting the road once again. This is our first conference road game of the season, and we encourage you to join us as we travel to Scotland County this Friday. This has been Coach Mike McClure. Coach, thanks again for joining us here in studio. We certainly appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
We're going to step aside for one more commercial break. We'll be right back for our closing segment here on WFJA.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix-It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
Welcome back, and we hope you have enjoyed listening to the Mike McClure Coaches Show. We want to remind you to join us each and every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. here on 105.5 FM WFJA, and this Friday night prior to the game at 6:30 on WWGP 95.1 FM 1050 AM. Our Coaches Show is also posted on the WFJA website and Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. We also want to remind you to check out the WFJA website, go to sports, then high school football, and you will see a choice of pages which include our results page with complete game articles posted by midnight each and every single Friday, the conference standings and power rankings, schedules for all teams in the Sandhills Athletic Conference, and up-to-date season stats for the Southern Lee Cavaliers. Good luck to the Cavaliers this Friday night as they hit the road for conference play against the Scotland County Fighting Scots. We want to once again thank all of our sponsors for bringing you our show tonight: Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. And we thank you for listening to WFJA and WWGP Sports. It's time for Southern Lee football.